Have you ever wondered what sailing could have to do with coaching and personal and professional growth? Let's talk about it. Welcome to another episode of Top You. I am Claudia from Top Coach Luxembourg, and here today I am with Clara Denzin, a consultant from Germany. Today we are going to talk about sailing. Clara, take us away. You're an avid sailor?
Thank you, Claudia, for inviting me for this very nice session. And I would like to tell you some words about the connection of sailing, team coaching, and international consulting today.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, we can often draw parallels between, different areas, and I definitely am eager to hear these parallels that you have seen. You actually hurt your back not too long ago. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. But it was a very hard sailing um, course, and I was going over my borders. And that's why I hurt my back, but no, it's getting better. But you have
Okay.
to know that sailing is not a nice weather sport.
Oh, okay. So first parallel I draw here, don't exceed your limits when you're sailing. Don't exceed your limits in life, whether professional or personal, obviously either. So it's not a fair weather kind of sport. So what do you mean by that?
Okay, you was just talking about exceed the limits, and this is what I experience if I work with teams and also with international teams. That you don't know where are your limits if you work with a multicultural team. If you work with a homogeneous team, the limits are quite clear, and I think limits are time and resources and budget and so on. But
So,
if
so constraints that you have, like within a team, you would, the constraints, the restrictions, the norms, the maybe even the culture, the processes and systems, and all those kind of things that are kind of set in place and give structure to the team and the engagement and so on. Is that what you mean?
yes, and it's
Okay.
quite clear if you work with a homogeneous team, which are, I think, like a team with only Germans or only people from Luxembourg or whatever. But nowadays you won't find a team like this because
Yeah,
all the teams are diverse.
even locally in Luxembourg, I don't think that you'll find like your homogeneous Luxembourgish team. It just does not exist, right? The constraints are obviously what they are. What makes the difference what makes the difference in these limits? What makes these limits fuzzy?
Yes,
In these things. And what does it have to do with sailing? Don't forget to tell
yes.
us about sailing. I really want to hear all about it.
Sailing is actually a picture for our word or VUCA word, like volatile and unsecure and complex, yeah, and ambitious. And sailing is like going in one direction with the wind, and this wind can change, and you don't have any other power except the wind, and you can't control the wind. And you are with the team on your sailing boat, and everybody is responsible for the outcome. And also, it's very important that the leader, the skipper, actually knows about the limits, about the mindset of the team members. And the team members are very different. And if you don't speak the language of the team members, And I think the language is not like English, German, Hungarian,
Yeah.
whatever. But if you don't know what they get on information from you and their own way, you can't lead this team.
That's very interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. Because from the very little bit that I see when you work with a team that I saw on TV, right? I'm not a sailor. I'm like the most motion sick person on the planet. Okay, I cannot watch a person play video games because just seeing somebody else movement on the screen makes me dizzy. And certain movies I cannot watch in the movie theater because I get motion sick. So you're not gonna get me on a boat. So
You never
pardon,
know, Claudia. You never
but
know.
pardon my ignorance in all things water and boat and stuff like that. But I have seen on on TV and so on that when you have these more advanced sailing crews, that it's actually a sport that can go very quickly, and that you have to get this sail up and that thing down, and mast swinging this way and that way. I can imagine that even on in that particular case, that the endurance, not only motivation but also endurance and resilience, and this truly common purpose, and also maybe even this acceptance of the leader, skipper in that case, and to just put yourself and whatever you would like to do aside for the guidance of the skipper and the common goal of the team. I really love this metaphor. Here are some things that resonate with me. First of all, that yes, the wind is going to be the wind and we can't control it. So we have these forces that come into play that we cannot control. It's outside of our sphere of influence. But it is something very real that we cannot escape as sailors. And you have to be able to rely on your own resilience, rely on your know-how in order to navigate those waters, no matter what the wind is, because I actually find it fascinating that you can still make a boat go that way even if you have a headwind and things like that. It's absolutely fascinating. So, that is really great. And obviously, the person who has the overview of it all is the skipper, the one who can really keep everything kind of in view and knows what the team is doing, the individuals in the team are doing, but keeps also kind of the lay of the land, well, on water, what do you say? The overview of the weather and the larger, further looking kind of things. And it seems to be also a sport that's very fast, isn't it? So I think even just the time and physical restrictions or requirements put on team members in the sailing can be a very good metaphor for not getting burnt out and so on, even in a regular team. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, yes, yes. This is actually what you said, that the main importance of the skipper, it's very, very high, but everybody can be a skipper. It's actually a decision in the team who is going to be a skipper on this day. And the skipper doesn't have only the overview about everything, but he has the responsibility. And this is his decision, what's going to be done by the team. And you can even change the skipper. One day are you the skipper? The next day I'm the skipper. But the team has to accept the skipper, the decision of the skipper. And the team has to have also a very clear communication. That means you have on a sailing boat, you have a special sailing language. And everybody knows if I say this and this and this, I don't know the expressions in English because I know the German sailing
Well,
language.
just give us a German one. Give us a German one then.
Okay, then I tell it in German. Klar zu Wende. Are you clear for a turning, for a turn? And everybody knows on the boat what does it mean, what's going on, which action they have to do. And if you have a multicultural team, if you say one, we say in German commando. How do you call it
a command?
A command. If you say command, what we are going to do, everybody has to understand the same thing. And this is actually a problem in an international team, that they have an understanding about one command, their own understanding, which is according to their culture. And this is not a language thing.
No, it's not. It's not.
This is not a language thing. And this is what I like in this metaphor with sailing, that the leader, the skipper, has the full responsibility on this day, and the clear communication has to be on the boat. And everybody has to know, if the skipper say this and this and this, a command, everybody has to know what to do. Mm-hmm. Because if one person messed up this maneuver, we say maneuver, how do you call it?
Yeah, this action.
If one person from 10 or 20 miss up this action, the whole action won't be done.
Yeah. And it can get dangerous fast. Right.
Yes.
Right. So that's very interesting. So everybody can be a leader, and there's this very clear and concise also communication. But maybe it's not as desperate a situation as it appears, because we don't need, if already you can become clear about what those commands are, it's a finite problem. It's not like, let's all learn to speak English together, or let's all learn to speak, I don't know, some new language like Swahili or whatever. No, just something foreign. And it's not required like that, because I think that you can just start, when you try to introduce this, with the most important commands. And obviously we do not want to say we want to command people, but common language, common team language, common understanding, common purpose, common actions, for common execution, and so on. Then you can slowly build on that. Because I'm sure when you started sailing, you started probably with a handful of those commands that you learned, right? And your vocabulary probably expanded over time. How was it when you were learning?
Yes, you are talking about commands, and it's very important for me to talk about these commands are a sailing language.
Yes, but that's what I try to say, that it's like, this common understanding, common vocabulary, common purpose, common how do we execute things together as a team, right? That I try to already frame it.
And just let's talk about like time. Mm-hmm. If I work with the international team, if I say as a skipper, as a leader, we are going to reach this project on time. If you have a Hungarian team member, a South Korean team member, and German team member, on time, this is a very different expression for them.
Okay, what would why don't you give us maybe an example of what it would mean for those different people?
I worked last time with a team coaching with a German South Korean team. They had quite difficulties about communication and common language. And the German was very keen on to act on time, and also if you can't reach the project on time, you have to give notice in advance. The South Korean team was a very, very professional team. They worked together on one project, but they didn't give a notice in advance if they knew that this project aim won't be delivered on time. They said, we have still time to fix it. We have still time to manage it. And the German part wanted to know if they have problems and if they assume that they won't reach the aim. Mm-hmm. And it was actually a point of losing faith.
Yeah, because I'm somewhat familiar with those cultures as well, and it comes really true because to what in those cultures it can mean to admit to any kind of shortcoming or any kind of issue, right? Because even just if you take the idea of responsibility. In German, if the project is late, who's responsible? Everybody is responsible. The world at large is responsible. The universe is responsible. Stuff just happens that, projects do get delayed and so on. Versus, in some cultures, it's one person needs to take responsibility, and we're going to blame it potentially on one person, whether it be the leader or not, and it needs to be somebody's fault, and it can't be kind of this overall kind of collective responsibility. And again, here I do not in any way want to come across as saying one is right or one is wrong. They're just different. And in their culture, in their universe, it is those things that are common sense. It's those things that have always been that way. It's the way the world works in their view. So obviously, if you're in those, somebody needs to take responsibility, you're not going to upfront say there's a problem, because that's, a really bad thing. And something that potentially already in advance can be punished or ostracized and things like that. So it's very, very important, I think, especially as consultants or coaches working with international teams, or as a global leader working with multicultural teams, and we all are, essentially, right, Klara, you said earlier. So I really can see that this, for instance, being on time thing can be a big issue. So what would you then do as a coach or consultant to open this more common communication?
This is actually what we did also in this case. We invited both parties for one team building, and it was actually a team coaching. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about how to build trust in Germany, how to build trust in South Korea. It was really interesting that the South Korean part noticed that in nowadays the German part never switched on the camera at meetings. They said, I can't build trust if I don't see a person I'm talking to. It was actually a very common, a very easy thing. And we had one day to talking about how to build trust, how to communicate, what do you understand on time, and so on. And we closed the day with a common understanding about the main things. And we pointed out which are the conflict points in these teams and how to deal with it. And it was very interesting, the failure culture in Germany and South Korea. It's really different.
Yeah. So
at the end of the day, we agreed to use one common understanding. It wasn't anymore the German one. It wasn't anymore the South Korean one. It was this team understanding about failure culture, being punctual, communicate clearly, to be personal oriented.
Mm-hmm. And you know, that brings up so many things that are you know, standard in coaching toolboxes, consulting toolboxes. It's first of all raising awareness, being able to talk about things and open these communication channels. You know, creating a space for at least that day where people can talk about what works and what doesn't work, and being as coaches or consultants, being able to hold that space and enable those kind of discussions. And then it's this thing that I call hyper contextualizing. Right. You know, the world can be what it is in Germany, the world can be what it is in South Korea, but when we are working together, we are in our own bubble. And in this bubble, let's work together this and this way. So it brings up, you know, a context of psychological safety and trust, and it brings together a way of working that is by agreement.
Yes, and this was, yes, excuse me that I interrupt you, but you told this word psychological safety. And this day, this team coaching day, was really important for psychological safety.
Safety.
Because we were talking about the South Korean team leader said to the German team leader, I always invited you for hitchhiking or for playing table tennis when you visited us in our country. And you always said no, because I have to go home and I have to Skype with my family and so on, or I have to work on the budget. And it was a place to say that going together in the mountains or playing together a sport is really important for in this culture to building relationship, to building trust.
Yeah, it's kind of nearly even required. It's a sign of caring to invite and extend the invitation. It's a sign to become part of a group, and you know, it can be taken in this high context language kind of situation like it is in Korea. You know, it can be actually taken as rude if you refuse too often. Obviously, everybody can have a situation at some point, but you're always, if you keep separate, you're kind of refusing or resisting becoming part of that collective, and so there's you know, definite differences in how it can be seen, and you know, obviously, Korea is a very collectivist country versus Germany being a very individualistic country as the base level. Okay, I'm not saying that one is good, one is bad. It just is what it is. And so, you know, seeing it from the German side, it makes sense. Seeing it from the Korean side, the way that they reacted made sense, but there was just an absolute disconnect there. So
yes, and it's very important to be aware of the other side. You don't have to act as the other side, because this is actually not how you are socialized. But you have to understand why they are doing it. Mm-hmm. And one of the South Korean team members said, okay, I understand now why all the Germans are rude to me. And it was like laughing, and it was a psychological safety, and everybody knew that this is rude for him. The German part said, I'm a clear communicator. I don't want to waste time on talking and whatever. I want to focus on my duty.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I do not see why drinking soju over chicken in the evening has anything to do with, being productive at work and getting the widgets out on time, right? So it really is a difference. And I think the breakthrough here is not whether or not they go out for chicken and beer in the evening, let's say, but that they're able to voice what they like, what they don't like, what they misunderstand when they're vexed, and so on. It's just being able to bring it out in the open and not assuming things as well. So, if we bring this back to the sailing metaphor, actually, what happens on a boat if somebody says, "I am reaching my limit," or I'm have trouble with this? How does it happen on a boat?
I actually had this issue because I hurted my back on the boat, and it was clear who was the one I can ask for replace me.
Okay.
It was really clear, and this other person shouldn't be involved in a different other responsibility. Otherwise, he can't replace me. You know, I have to know who can I ask, and this person has to be prepared to take over my position. And actually, I changed another position for this time. It wasn't so hard for me because we couldn't just like say, I can't do anything, I'm hurt,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
you know? And we
So,
changed the position for this sailing day, and the next day it was fine, and we changed back.
okay, so you obviously needed to know about your colleagues, about what they could do, how they could contribute, whether they were up to the task, but also what they were already working on and what responsibilities they had already. You
Yes,
also had to be very clear about your own capabilities.
yes,
If I switch with that person, am I able to then do that job?
yes,
Right? So there's kind of this true awareness of all the others in the team as individuals, and how the interplay, how can it change? So that's very interesting, and it obviously needs to go pretty fast as well.
yes,
You cannot have this half-hour discussion in the middle of a hard sailing exercise or whatever, right? You have to like being able to ask for help and being able to offer help and think on your feet and switch and continue moving along seamlessly. I really that's really a powerful metaphor because I think a lot of us can relate to the applicability of something like that in our teams. In our
yes,
teams.
yes. It's so you have to be prepared for giving help and don't think about why she is asking this and perhaps she doesn't want to be forced, whatever. If somebody asks you, you give your help. And you have also to be prepared to ask, because if I compare it with the everyday work, how often you work and work and work and work and you don't ask for help and say, okay, I have to manage it. But why don't you ask for help?
Right.
And both
And
things are very important, to ask and give help in a
yeah,
team.
yeah. And sometimes I think the mindset of asking for help can already be a helpful step. I remember back in the day, that's like long time ago, when I was working as an engineer, I would go so often into a colleague's cubicle, into a colleague's office, take the marker to start writing on the whiteboard, trying to put my thoughts in place to ask a question or to ask for help, and then, oh, got it, and reclosing the marker and placing it. I think just the thing to ask for help often already lend itself to stepping out of the mental box that we're in and opening our own creativity and sorting our thoughts and things like that. Sometimes we don't even need to get the physical actual help. I think sometimes even the mindset of being open to it can be helpful. So
Yes, and just let me tell, I think to asking for help. I live now in Germany for the last 30 years. Asking for help, it means I'm not able to do it. It's a weakness. But if you reframe it and say, I don't ask for help, I just want to cooperate with somebody and we do it together. It's actually the same action, but a different mindset.
yeah, yeah.
And this is also a cultural thing for me, that in one culture, asking for help is a weakness.
Yeah, and doesn't it also relate again to this cooperation versus competition kind of
Yeah,
sliding scale that we're on, right? If everything is a competition, then we are more like asking for help is a failure. And if I ask for help, I show myself vulnerable, and that
yeah,
can carry risks. Versus if you're in a culture, and again, that can be a team culture, a company culture, or a culture at large. If you're in a culture that cherishes or rewards cooperation, then asking for help is the most natural thing to do, and actually something that gets rewarded.
yeah,
So again, here I think, like so many things, especially in cultural intelligence, it's being aware and then growing this understanding about our own positions and also the positions of others, and coming to a sweet spot that we can all kind of agree to and be comfortable with, that is beneficial to everybody. Like, it comes again down to this failure culture also that you mentioned earlier, right? Like if asking for help is seen as a failure, then it's not going to happen that often, and you will have people that are just getting stuck in a hole and digging themselves deeper and deeper into the hole rather than asking the neighbor for a shovel. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And we
So,
always come back to psychological safety. And
yeah,
this is actually the main point, also on a boat and also in a team.
yeah. I must say I really love this image of a boat, and I'm gonna steal it potentially, to use it as a nice illustration, when talking to to teams in the future, because it's really good. So, what are some other things that you wanted to touch upon? Because I would really love to hear more. But what else did you want to bring up today, Clara?
Just let's think about this metaphor, sailing and teams. We were talking about psychological safety. We were talking about the wind, who you are not controlled about it. We were talking about the responsibility of the skipper, and also to make sure about the common understanding of the commons, which is actually the communication. Yeah. Um, what I also thought, I was thinking about my role as a cross-cultural consultant. And I said that my role is not to be a skipper if I work with a team, because the skipper is there, the team is there, and my role is a guide. And this is actually what is also very important with this metaphor, because I used it for my website and use it also in my team coachings, that my responsibility is to guide the team. I can show them where they can go and which part of the sea they shouldn't go. But this is actually their own decision what they do.
Yeah. And yeah, that's a very good point to bring up. The We as team coaches or team consultants, when we go into an engagement, yes, the system changes because we're there. Obviously, now there's an additional person in the room, and or on Zoom or whatever. I mean, we're there. There's an influence. Otherwise, they wouldn't hire us. But they are the team, and we are outside of the team. Um, Looking towards the same purpose, but as a guide, as a catalyst, as an enabler during that time. Very much like a physical fitness coach will be in the room with you, but if you're a team member, you're still the one who needs to sweat. Right? I mean, the physical fitness instructor cannot sweat for you. So I think that it's very important to bring that out, because it's also always their decision and their responsibility in the
Yes.
end.
Yes.
And
I'm not sure about if you have in English this word we say in German, Lotse,
in
because
it's
this is actually a profession, the Lotse, the guide. I was looking on it in a dictionary, it's actually guide, but this is a profession. The Lotse comes with a small boat, with a really small boat, very speedful boat, to the big boat, and guides this boat through the difficult parts of the sea.
yeah, it's
And
like
if these difficult parts are over, the Lotse, the guide,
it disappears.
goes away
Yeah.
with his
Yes.
small boat.
Yeah, it's like a navigator, right? Was like these little tugboats and things like that, just showing the way for a little while. That's yeah, you're really a sailor. You're really a sailor.
Yes, because
It
this is
should,
always the problem if you say you are a consultant. The consultant knows everything what you have to do.
yeah, and
But
the
this is not
consultant
my
takes the decisions, and the consultant is responsible. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
That's
this
why
is actually not my role. My role is to advise them, but this is their own decision what they do in the
essentially
team.
you're doing the job of a coach
Yes.
in those situations, and in some engagements the lines between coach, consultant, and facilitator really start to get blurred. And for us as professionals, our aim is always to be what the team needs most. And what the
Yeah.
team needs most is to get to a point where once we leave, they can stand on their own 2 feet, and they have grown and they have learned, and they have taken responsibility. And for us, being there and prescribing things that maybe don't make even sense to them, it's not something that sets them up for long-term success.
Yeah.
Definitely. So yeah, we come in as guides, and that's a very very important point, and I really appreciate that you clarified that for us at this point, Klara. So what's next for you on your sailing journey? You took a course. Are you still taking a lot of courses? What's next for you?
Yes, it's not an easy way to become a sailor. I was sailing in the last 30 years, but I never took real responsibility. I was just enjoying the nice time of sailing, and now I decided to make a course for the sea.
Oh,
And I just passed the exam for the practical um, last summer, yes. And this winter is going to be a very hard learning time for the theory. This is it's a book like this.
yeah.
And
Wow.
also I have to do a course on radio, to
Oh,
use the radio on the boat. And this is my winter evening actions to read this book and to pass the exam. The exam is end of January
okay.
for the
Well,
theory and for the radio. Yeah.
Well, we definitely hope to get plenty of updates from you as you study through this, and we definitely wish you all the best for this exam. And I can't wait to have more discussions with you in the future. This was so much fun and so interesting. If it's okay with you, maybe we'll conclude it now. You have very nicely already summarized our discussion for you. Would this be a good place to wrap up, Klara? Okay, fantastic. Well, it was a true pleasure. Thank you. I will cherish this sailing boat and sailing metaphor definitely in the future. It's very clear, very exciting, and I think it's going to help also other people to draw some of these very interesting parallels. So thank you so much.
I have to
And
thank you, and I wish that you come to my boat once.
oh, that's great. That's great. Okay. I will pack some motion sickness
Yes,
medication.
yes.
Yes, yes, yes. I would love to see it. And by the way, if you ever have a picture, send me a picture and I'll put it in this video recording so we can see you on a boat.
I will do it.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Clara. Thank you. Bye
Thank you,
bye.
Claudia. Bye-bye. Bye.